We're back by popular demand. It's Season 2 of the Wed-Cast, brought to you by Filmedia Wedding Videography. And we are back. It is Season 2 of Filmedia Wed-Cast. My name is James, and what a pleasure it is to be back here. I have missed doing this, guys. Obviously, last year we had a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, Season 1. We had some excellent suppliers, and we had obviously a bride and groom who I'd actually filmed with, and it was a pleasure to have a chat with them, and basically just to sort of give you an insight really as to what people's mindsets are, like obviously from the bride and groom side of things to planning their day, and also hearing from wedding suppliers and about what goes on behind the scenes. And I hope to have another brilliant season this time. I've got some brilliant wedding suppliers, possibly another wedding couple. We'll have to see how this season goes. But also Leo is back, and as you can remember last season, Leo being my son, he has questions that he asks the supplier or the guest each week. So he is back this season, and back with a bang, which is great. Leo would have loved to have done this live with me, but just due to time constraints, he has to record questions, which obviously he'll be adding to the show anyway. So, but he spent the time the other day writing questions for the guests, and then going on to record them, which is great. So let's talk about today's show, and obviously we'll talk about next week's show. So I'll quickly, before we touch on today's show, let's tell you about what's going to happen next week. So next week, obviously the Wed-Cast is Weddings for Wed, and also Wednesday. That's when we do it, every Wednesday, the Wed-Cast. So make sure obviously you follow us on Apple Podcasts, and also we are on YouTube, and also of course filmmedia.co.uk, the only place where you need for your wedding videography needs, and obviously Wed-Cast. So next week I will be bringing on the show from Barker's Photo Fun, or you can call it Barker's Fun Photos, Victor Ling. He will be discussing with us all about the different types of photo booths that he does, and as he is a photographer himself, and everything that goes along with what he does. So we'll talk about him next week. I'm very excited to have Victor on the show. He wanted to come on last season. Again, due to time constraints, we couldn't make that happen, but this season he's here, so that's episode 2. So obviously today is the first episode, the return of the Wed-Cast, and we have got someone on from Filmedia, and obviously I can't interview myself, so who better than to have and bring on the show than my tag team partner when it comes to weddings, obviously Emily Rose. It is absolutely fantastic to have her on the show. We're going to be talking to her all about her background in videography, what's it like being in a Filmedia team with myself when we go out on the road and we film together, and some of her best moments. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to bring Emily on in a minute, but before I do, I just want to say thank you ever so much to everyone who tuned in last season. Make sure you spread the news about the Wed-Cast. I've got some wedding fairs coming up in the next couple of weeks as well, so come and find me at those. I'm doing the Boathouse, I'm doing the Great Yarmouth Town Hall, and I'm also doing the wedding venue in Beccles. So yeah, come look me up. Everything's obviously on my Insta, and it's on my Facebook as well, so make sure you look that up. Anyway, enough chitter-chatter. We've got a show to do. I'm going to bring Emily in now, and we'll go from there. So guys, enjoy the show. Welcome back, and here we go. Okay, hello Emily, welcome to the show. It's absolutely brilliant to have you on. How are you today?
Hi James, I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely brilliant. I am so pleased to be back with the second season of the Wed-Cast, and I couldn't have asked for a better person to come on. Obviously, it's great to talk to someone who knows about what we do, because obviously last season we didn't have a videographer, and this season I thought, what a perfect way to kick off by talking to someone who not only is a videographer, but someone who knows how we do things, because obviously there's different ways of people doing things. I just want to talk to you first of all. Well, obviously thank you for coming on. I just want to know, how did you get into working and doing weddings with me? Let's talk a little bit about that. What happened?
Okay, well, if you cast your mind back to, was it 2020 I started working at the cinema?
2020, or it might have been 2019. Well, it could have been 2019, 2020, around that sort of time.
I'm sure it was like February 2020, like right at the start. And then I think it was that summer we were sort of talking about it. But if I remember correctly, I think it was after lockdown we had our first one, was it?
Yeah. Actually, I think it was before, because I remember I said to you, COVID was just starting up, And I said to you, "Oh God, if I get ill, are you happy to sort of come in?" I think we maybe have done one or two at that point leading up to it. But obviously we've had some pretty excellent adventures teaming together. So we were working together, weren't we, at the cinema? And I remember you telling me at the time you were studying, or what were you studying, and what kind of like why were you? Why did I look at you and think, actually, I think she'd be great doing this videography for weddings? Because you'd never done a wedding before, had you, at this point?
No. When we first met, I was still doing my college course in filmmaking, and then I was talking to you about how I was going to be going off to uni to do. I think it must have been the September. I was going to go off to uni and do filmmaking again, and you said, "Well, that sounds great. I've been looking for somebody that's doing filmmaking. How would you like to give it a go? Come with me, see if you like it." And from the second we first started doing it, I was like, "Yeah, this is definitely something I'm going to enjoy."
I mean, we've got some tales. We can talk a little bit about them today. But like I remember, was it one of the first weddings I think we did? We were working together in Beccles. I want to say it was somewhere in Beccles, on the outskirts, and we went to a wedding with a photographer. I'm not too familiar with who the photographer was now. I can't remember, but it was a long day. It was a hot day as well, and I remember I was just, for me, thinking, oh my God, this is Emily's first wedding. I hope it's okay. And I think the photographer turned up late. And I think there was some problems as well going on with the food and stuff at the wedding as well on the day. But it was an interesting one for you to join me. And I actually think that might have been a wedding. Correct me if I'm wrong, where the bride's father, who couldn't walk, had managed to get himself in a situation where he could stand for the first dance. Was that the first wedding we did?
Yeah, it was. Yes, I think that was obviously the whole day. It was really good. We were having a great time doing it, and it was all going really well. And I was obviously really enjoying it because it was like a duck to water, just so much fun. But yeah, it was that moment when they had the first father and daughter dance, and he got up out of his wheelchair to not necessarily dance, but to stand with her and to sway. And everyone danced around them, and it was just one of those beautiful moments that you wouldn't get to see in any other profession.
And that's the beauty really about what we do, because we've done so many weddings together now, and obviously that was the start of the wedding journey, obviously with myself when we started teaming. But like you can never really predict what's going to happen at a wedding, and I think for you coming in as your first wedding, seeing that obviously there was a few knocks in the road, because there normally is at a wedding. It doesn't always run on time or bits like that, but to see the passion and the moments that sometimes that a wedding can bring. I can talk for myself. Prior to getting into filming weddings, I don't know about you, but I didn't really attend many. I don't know, but now obviously we do loads. But it's kind of unique jumping into kind of an environment like yourself for that first time, where obviously I don't know if you, as I said, if you'd been to many weddings, but to see how people do things, and obviously moments like that.
Yeah, for me, I'd been like a bridesmaid when I was like a toddler and things, but I hadn't, because I think I was 19 when we started doing them, so it's not like any of like my friends or anything had really gotten engaged or gotten married or anything. So you know how a wedding runs, but I think especially now that we've done so many together, I really know how a wedding runs. I think I could run a wedding just like the back of my hand.
and that's what we're going to talk about next, because obviously we got a few under our belt, and then you went off and I think you did a friend's wedding for the first time on your own. Was that might have been after lockdown time? Talk to me about that. How did that go?
Yeah, I only actually met them once, but they were sort of like they were friends of some of my family in Luton, and they were saying that they were looking for like a photographer and a videographer and things. And obviously, my family are very supportive. So my auntie immediately piped up and was like, "Oh, she does wedding photography," and which is what everybody always says. They always say photography, and you have to go, "No, not a photographer." And they went, "Well, that's brilliant, because we've got a photographer and we don't have a videographer. So if we'll send you some details if you think that you'd like to be involved. We'd love to have you." And I did. I ended up going all the way up to Luton just to shoot this wedding. And
how did you find that? Because obviously prior to that we'd done a few together. did you find it like quite hard to jump in? Obviously, because we'd had a little bit of experience working together. Was it quite different doing it on your own than it was working within a team with me?
I think I expected it to be a lot scarier than it was, but I think because, I mean, when we do weddings, we're pretty chilled back with it. I think, you know, the main part is obviously capturing the wedding, but you have to make sure everybody has a good time, and people seem to underestimate how much of a big deal that is. Like, a lot of our job is making sure everybody's happy and having a good time, which I love doing, don't get me wrong. But I think that's what I took with me to the one that I did on my own. I was like, we're here to have a good time. We're here to make sure. It was 2 brides, but I was like, it was, you know, both brides have to be very happy and have a good day, and that is the point of the wedding. And I think that's the attitude that they liked and that they really responded to.
So wow, your first wedding on your own was a same-sex wedding. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. See, now I've been doing this now. Next year will be my 10 years of doing weddings. So obviously started in 2015, and I only had my first same-sex wedding last year. So it's really like for you, straight in on that first same-sex wedding. Which, and do you know what? Doing a same-sex wedding is amazing. I absolutely loved it last year.
Yeah.
I had 2 beautiful brides. They both looked amazing, and I always think to myself, it's about. There's so many things that you can bring into like loving the weddings. It's like it's not just the bride and groom, or the brides in that case. It's about the guests, and it's about the feeling and the atmosphere. And if you have 2 amazing people, the 2 amazing people getting married, or the guests alone, it can really change the day and the way the way the whole day pans out. Really, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we know from experience, like, you can know the couple for a long time before the wedding actually happens, but it's when you get there on the day and you find out, you know, what the vibe is going to be for the day based on the energy that's there in the morning when we do the bridal prep and the groomsmen.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, it's, I wouldn't say that it makes or breaks the day, but you know when a wedding's going to be a fun wedding right from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, we did a wedding together last year. Actually, we did quite a few last year, but one of the ones last year that really stands out to me was we were in. I'm not sure where we were. We were at a golf club somewhere anyway in Norfolk, and I remember we just arrived there in the morning and.
Wenton Valley.
Well, yeah, Wenton Valley. That's the one. Sorry, cheap plug to Wenton Valley. We were there, and you could just tell immediately, couldn't you? I mean, I think it was. The lady and her daughter were getting ready in the morning, and you could just tell it was going to be one of them sort of fun days. And you know, we started off and they had some drinks, and again, it's that bridal prep in the morning. You can usually tell from that point, from that bridal prep, how that day is going to pan out. Do you know what I mean? And that was a good one.
Absolutely.
And I think we'd even got. I mean,
I
don't.
The energy was just fantastic in the room.
And even if, like, for example, I think on that day it even rained, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it rains. I mean, obviously, it makes our job a hell of a lot harder if it does rain, in regards to taking them out to do their shots, their couple shots, you know, and everything like that. But if you've got a fun, the atmosphere is fun, then it's going to show in your video, especially. I just want to quickly go back to a point where you said a minute ago in regards to when you filmed. So it was your auntie's friend, and her friend who got married.
It was technically she's my godmother, but she's the same age as my cousins. She just really wanted to be my godmother, so she became my godmother when she was like 6 or 8 or something. Nice.
What I was going to say to you is, obviously, people do confuse a videographer with a photographer, and we get this a lot. You know, people go, "Oh, well, you can take a photo," and there's a real big difference between a photographer and a videographer. But people seem to think, well, it's the same thing, and it really isn't, is it?
Yeah, I must say, I think it's quite good that this is the worst complaint that we do have, really, about our job.
Yeah.
But it is the most frustrating thing about filming weddings, is that every guest at the wedding thinks you're a photographer.
Yeah.
And they come and ask you for photos all day long. And
we're like, actually, we're not doing photos, but, you know, the best we can offer them is obviously is a still from the video. However, I think if you try and do too much of 2 different, so what I'm trying to say is, if you try and do a videographer and a photographer at the same time, if you try and be a person who does 2, one of them's not going to be as good as the other. You want to focus on that one important thing, and obviously for us that's the video. So I'm not saying photos aren't important, but you wouldn't get a photographer coming in doing video. you know what I'm saying?
No, and I think the main thing that always worries me when they come and ask is that, like, and as you say, it can get out of hand if you say, yeah, I'll just do one, and then you end up taking hundreds, and then you've also got to do all of the post-production on them. But the thing that worries me the most is that the photographer is then watching you steal their job, you know?
Absolutely.
You're right. If we saw a photographer start taking, like, videos for people, we'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Absolutely, you would. So any funny moments you can remember from last year? Because for me, there's quite a few funny moments. Obviously, going out in the rain and all the different things that we do. But have you got any particular fun memories of last year and what you're hoping for this year, wedding wise? Anything different or exciting that we haven't done? Two different questions there, I suppose, but.
Well, I'd say right from the start, the funniest part of every wedding is whenever you lay down completely on your belly without any warning, just drop to the floor to get the shot that you're imagining. Like, I always know that no matter what the shot is that you're thinking of, you will contort yourself to get it.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Literally, it's one of those sort of things where you either see me laying on the floor, hanging upside down from somewhere, but sometimes you need it for that shot, so you have to.
Yeah, and I think the guests, I mean, they can obviously see your dedication because you're properly throwing yourself around for it.
You've got to do it, and that's one thing that I do, and obviously I don't know. I might look a bit of a prat, but so what? As long as I get the shot, that's all that matters. I mean, the last wedding we did was in October, which was a Halloween wedding. Talk to me a little bit about that. Your thoughts on that one?
Well, I thought it was more of an autumnal theme when we got there, but they did have a lot of like horror-based like elements and like inspirations, and like all of the tables were like, if I remember correctly, each table has a different horror movie as the theme, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and they also had we also went searching for a big pumpkin patch, which unfortunately was just too muddy, but would have looked amazing.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot the pumpkin patch. It was like a small lake with some orange dots.
Yeah, and there's me flying the drone over it, thinking, "Oh my god, we're not going to walk through that."
And we were going, we can't even use this. It just looks like mud.
Yeah. So as I said, you can tell we have a lot of fun. Why do you think then it is important to? I mean, obviously there's pros and cons on both things, but do you think it's important to kind of have a duo as a team for videography? What makes that so different to obviously doing that together rather than doing it solo? What are the benefits and obviously what are the disadvantages of it?
I think you've sort of answered your own question in that the difference is it's a lot more fun when you've got like a little buddy with you to talk to, and you don't have to, it's not as much stress. Like when I've done like them on my own, it's a lot harder because you want to be in the moment and enjoying it, but you've got to keep an eye on so many different things at once and make sure that you get everything, you don't miss anything. Whereas when there's two of us, we can sort of have a bit more fun with it and a bit more of a chat while we're going. And if I see that you're covering something, I can find something else to get, and then you've got way more stuff than you would have done because you would have missed these little moments.
Absolutely.
Like even when we do the bridal prep, and I'll shoot bridal prep and you'll go find a groomsman, we wouldn't have got both of those things if we hadn't both been there.
And that's the thing, because you try and when you're on your own, you try and split yourself in half. So, for example, I've filmed weddings before where the bride and groom are getting ready in the same hotel, obviously in different ends. Yeah. But you're obviously always flitting between the two, and sometimes
you're just running from one end to the other.
Absolutely. I mean, you can do it, but it's not. It makes life a lot harder, and obviously.
It is exhausting.
You get your steps in early, I suppose, but but with doing it with obviously, like when I work with you, which we work together quite a lot. As I said last time, you went off to the bridal prep, I went to the groom prep, and it just makes life easier. I mean, it makes my life harder in the editing process when I get down to the editing side because someone else doesn't edit.
Just so much more footage as well.
Yeah.
So much more to go through.
Absolutely. It'd be easy if you edited as well, just saying.
You could not pay me enough, my dear.
I know. I mean, that's one thing
no one could pay me enough.
That's one thing that people forget, you know. Obviously, the easy part of a wedding is filming the day. That's the easy part. Yeah. The hard, obviously, you edited a lot during your course, I guess, and when you went to uni. How did you find that editing side of things?
absolutely ridiculous. There is nothing that is more that, and you're right. That is the part that not even just the guests, but like the immediate family and of the bride and groom. But like, it's usually the father of the bride will come up to us at the end and be like, "So how long do I have to wait until I see it?" Or like, "Oh, when can you get it to us?" And it's like, a really long time, you know? Like,
it takes time.
You've got to not only sort through everything and find the footage that is even worthwhile, but then you've got to start putting it together and then making it flow properly. It's an indescribable mountain of work. The day of filming is the fun part, and then you've got the actual work starts afterwards.
I mean, especially as well if you've, like, when we have busy wedding seasons and you're out 2 or 3 times a week, and then obviously you start to get a backlog. I mean, last year for me, I didn't actually get finished editing weddings until December, and that's how long.
Yeah, I remember you talking.
Yeah,
and I was like, "It's Christmas, James.
Yeah.
You're still working."
I mean, you have to. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, I try and give the couples an approximation of a turnaround time, but that's not always doable because sometimes when you're not when you're not sitting at your computer editing, life gets in the way. Unfortunately, you have family things to do, especially if you have another job as well. It all gets in the way. And to be honest with you, most of the bride and grooms that I work with and that you've worked with are really understanding to that. But I mean, I have had times where I've been at a wedding and go, "Can we watch this wedding video tonight?" Definitely not. I haven't finished it. We haven't finished filming it yet. Yeah.
Tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
I can think that one thing that you do that definitely I haven't seen anybody else do that I think is a really, really good thing, and that I did do when I did my solo wedding, I immediately implemented, was that you will send like a couple stills or just like a little teaser, and you'll sort that out before you even go to sleep. I've seen you post it at like midnight, and I'm like, James, go to bed.
Go to bed, yeah.
It's really worth it because I think people really, really appreciate getting just like that little glimpse to go to sleep thinking about
what their day had been, and and how their day has. Because as I say to couples, and I think I've heard you say it before, make the most of that time of that day because it does go so quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it goes quick enough for us, and it's not like it's our wedding, like it's that fast when we're just like watching it happen. I can't imagine how quickly it goes past when like you're the bride.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been times where I've said to the bride, or in the morning during bridal prep, make the most of today and spend that time. Take some time out with just you and your husband or your wife or whoever you've got married. Take that time because you only get one time around, and obviously it's lovely. That's why we film it, so you can kind of relive their moments. I want to just quickly touch on one other thing I said to you earlier. So, is there anything that you're looking forward to doing this year? I mean, obviously, for you've started to know some of the venues now. Would you like to expand out and go further to more distant venues, or try new venues, or return to some of the venues you went to last year?
I mean, both are good because when you go back to a venue that you've already shot, you already know the layout, so it's so much faster in that you already know where you want to get your shots from, and you have more time to then perfect the framing instead of like being able to just throw it down,
Yeah.
But I personally, I think one of the most fun things about the job is that we get to go to so many different places that we, again, wouldn't usually get to go to. Like, we went to, I don't remember what it was called, but the most recent, maybe not most recent, but it had the beautiful gardens with all of the little hidden nooks and crannies. That's the one that rained. Where was that?
Was that, I want to say, was that Oxnead Hall?
Oxnead, yeah.
Beautiful,
beautiful place.
Yeah, and there's kind of like, it was, it's a stunning venue. If you've never been, obviously I know you have, but anyone listening, if you've never been, and you're looking obviously for a venue, that is a stunning venue, and they've even got a church.
Oh, yeah.
They've even got a church on the site, haven't they? There, so if you're religious as well, you can obviously get married within the big house itself or in the church. So I mean, it really opens your options up there.
It's definitely one where if budget was not a problem, that's like one of the dream locations. It was absolutely beautiful inside and out. It had so much space and all this greenery, and the landscaping was really impressive.
Yeah, and it's reasons why, like them venues, that I take my drone, because sometimes it's beautiful to capture that aerial view, and I think that was the one where we we were kind of really hoping. It rained on and off all day, but we kind of got a glimmer of a sunset at the end, didn't we?
Yeah, we were packing up the car and we unpacked everything and come running back in because we were like, guys, quick!
We've got to go.
Quick,
we've got
now.
it.
We've got it.
Absolutely, we've got to go now. So let's talk a little bit about positioning wise. So what I mean by that is when we're doing things like speeches or when we're doing things like the service, we both have different kind of camera angles and different ways of doing that. So for me, usually when we're doing a service, I mean, we might change it up, but it seems to work really well for us. I usually stand at the front, obviously get the view of the bride from that side, and usually go and shoot from the back with a longer lens. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, for anybody, the positioning like that to cover both sides of it, you get everything that you need. And if, somebody moves or somebody stands up, one of us can still manage to get the shot because we've positioned so differently.
Yeah.
But as well, I think I'm quite short, so it's quite easy to sort of hide at the back and not get too in the way. And again, now that I've touched on that, it is the most important part of being a wedding videographer is being able to blend in and not affect the shot in any way. Like, you've got to be part of the background so that the focus is all on the guests and the couple themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to be in someone's video. You don't want to just be walking around, in front. And that's the same with the way we do speeches. Obviously, we kind of shoot. If the room permits, if it's a big enough room, we kind of have one of us one side, one of us the other, again, to give us kind of different views. We go in with zoom lenses, bits like that. Obviously, we have the audio set up as well, and we try and kind of mix up different angles as well, because sometimes you go to do a speech and the table is really long. I don't know, you've seen it, haven't you? And you get like 12 people on a top table, and you think, God, we need someone both ends.
I mean, I think even if you're on your own, I would advise that anybody that is trying to cover something like that, you've got to have both sides covered, because I know we've done weddings before where I've set up the tripod and it's been a beautiful shot and we're both really happy with it, and then the photographer or a guest or someone will just stand directly in front of it. And if there weren't two of us, we would miss part of the speech.
And the problem you have with that, if it's like, for example, if it's a crowded room, and the photographer, sometimes when we work with photographers, they sometimes bring like a second with them, and they're so focused on their job of trying to get their photo, which is fair enough, but sometimes they forget that there's a camera set up, and they do stand in front of it, which is a pain. That's why it's a real bonus that either of us have got a different angle in case of that, in case of anything happens like that. And also it's a backup as well.
It's definitely been a complete godsend and saved the day many times for us, is just having that second angle so that you don't miss parts while the other person's resetting up. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm going to talk about something now that is one of your favourite parts that I make you do at a wedding. Let's talk about guest messages. Give me your thoughts on that.
Guest messages. Well,
what is a guest message?
Why do we do it? With them, haven't we?
Yeah, what is it then? What is it we do with these guest messages? What are they? Obviously, it says it on the
like the concept. Well, guest messages are a compilation of little clips of the guests talking at the end, and just little messages or little good wishes to group together at the end and sort of cover that little last bit and get everybody to be involved. And it's quite difficult to explain that when it's the end of the night and all of the guests have been partying all day.
I mean, it's one of them things, isn't it? Because you don't want to peak too early and do them guest messages so earlier on in the day, because by that point, people, not to be rude, they're not as sort of relaxed. But by the evening, they're not
as receptive to us either. I know when we've gone, oh well, there's a bit of a lull, we've got a bit of quiet before something else, should we get a couple of guest messages? And when you ask them, before the meal and the drinks and everything, they go, oh no thank you, I don't want to be on camera. But when you wait till everyone's up and dancing and start sneaking people out for them, suddenly it's much more oiled and there seems to be a lot to say.
And sometimes you get a queue.
Yeah, sometimes we have people do songs. We've had people dancing before. People get really into the guest messages at the end when they realise it's like the choose your own adventure part of the evening, where they can decide what goes on the end.
Absolutely, and I think it's a really nice thing because it's something that the bride and the bride and groom do not get to see until they get the video back, and I think that's lovely. I think there's times where I say to Emily, I say, "Do you get messages?" She goes, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, sometimes you just by the end of the night, that you just feel like it's if you don't get the people to come, it's hard. But if you have a wedding, as you said, where you get a queue of people or there's a lot of people, it's literally time just flies by. Everyone's having the best time, and as I said, you have people singing and dancing, and it's just amazing.
I've got nothing against guest messages as a concept. The part that I always hate is having to go up to people and be like, "Hey guys, do you want to come and shoot a little message?" And they go, "No." And you go, "All right then, okay."
Yeah, that is right. So I just want to talk to you as well about one other thing I wanted to say is when we started doing weddings together, I got you a little bum bag to put your batteries in. But over time, you've kind of found your own way with what works for you. You've kind of gone the dungaree look. Is that something you're going to continue with because it's got the pockets?
Yes. I only bought the dungarees in the first place because I resented the Batman belt quite so much because you talked me into it, and I was like, no, it's silly. And you were like, no, go on, no one's going to laugh. And then you posted a picture on Instagram, and everybody laughed. Everybody laughed.
Yeah.
I was so bullied for it.
Oh, really?
Like,
oh, I'm sorry.
Beyond embarrassing.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
So I went and got myself
some dungarees.
Oh, it was because I can't remember where we were, but we were shooting with.
We were in Essex, I think.
And she was wearing the Lucy and Yak.
We were in Essex.
And I just thought they were such an amazing choice, and it worked so well for her. Let me see if I can. I
think we were in Colchester, if I remember, and that was the wedding where.
It was a bit of a drive.
Yeah, I think that was the wedding where the groom got the wrong name in the speech.
It was, yes. Oh my goodness, I'd forgotten that part.
Yeah, as I said, you never know what you're going to get at weddings. It's a lot of fun. I'm just trying to think of the photographer who we worked with that day. She was lovely anyway, but she kind of inspired you for that look. So this year, obviously, we've got.
That was it. She was called Grace Elizabeth.
Grace Elizabeth.
Which is Grace Ellis photo on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't think she's an Norfolk or Essex photographer. I think she moved. I think that was her last one we worked with her.
She's in Devon now.
Oh, she's in Devon. Yeah, so if you get married in Devon...
She does travel worldwide for weddings, worldwide. So if anybody's listening, she was absolutely amazing.
And she's such a lovely person as well, so a phenomenal photographer. Yeah. What I'm going to do now...
We always get along with the people we work with, but she was really, really fun to work with.
And you do, that's the thing, because what people forget as well is you have, when you work with a photographer on the day, you become a little team, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you become a team with all the suppliers there as well. We're all trying to do one amazing job together for the bride and groom. But for you and me personally, we spend a lot of time with the photographer on the day because we work closely together, and obviously with the bride and groom himself. So by the end of the day, you kind of feel like a little family. It sounds a bit weird, isn't it? But it's true.
Yeah, you really bond with people because, I mean, you turn up on the happiest day of these people's lives and you're only there for the whole fun bit. You just go home at the end. So it's like, you really bond with people, and then it's like, okay, bye. It's over now. It's really strange.
And don't people treat you really well at weddings? Like, I mean, how many times have we been to a wedding and we've been like, just treated like, like part of it, or like, we've known these people for years. They give us beautiful meals, which we don't expect, which is really nice, and we sit with them and we chat with them. It feels like, it just feels just such a nice sort of, I can't explain it. It's hard to explain. Like an amazing environment you've walked into, and you've only just met these people for the kind of like the first time, and they make you feel so welcome.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think when I work on film sets instead of like live wedding videography, it's a completely different energy because you know what you need to get done. You've got a limited time to do it. You have to do reshoots and retakes for each thing to make sure it's perfect, and everybody's under a lot of pressure. But when you go to a wedding, the point of everyone being there is to have a nice time, and you don't have to redo the shot over and over and over again to make it perfect. You capture a beautiful moment that is real, and that makes it perfect.
Yeah, like that ring going on for the first time, or that first glance when that bride's walking down that aisle, or that moment when
My favourite part is always when the father sees the bride in the dress for the first time.
Absolutely. So that dress reveal in the morning, and obviously as we pointed out earlier, that moment where he stood up and swayed with his daughter, beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're the moments.
And it's real.
It is. It's real. And that's different to working on a film set, which is a slightly different thing. But you're capturing obviously nice moments on a film set. But with weddings, obviously you're capturing that real beautiful moment. And it's a job like I've never ever done in my life before. But it's a job that I love, and I know that I'll continue to love it and continue to do it just like you. And we just go through and we just have the best days. And I'm really grateful that you're part of the team, because we are a good tag team.
Oh, thank you.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Leo, who has spent a little bit of time writing some questions for this season. I told him you're going to be the first one on, and he was pretty excited to write your questions. So I'm going to hand over to Leo now, and we're going to go from there, okay?
Rightio.
What's it like to work with my dad? Is he annoying sometimes?
Well, first of all, hi Leo. I am good. I hope you're well too. And I would say the only part of the day that James, your dad, is annoying is the drive there where he keeps singing along to all his music.
What, on the way to the wedding?
Yeah, it's the way there. You're all tired on the way back. You've tuckered yourself out. But on the way there, you got a lot of energy, and it's very early in the morning.
It's because I'm always worried, are we going to get there on time?
Well, you hide it well. You always just seem like you're really pumped for the day. I'm like, James, I need to finish this energy drink before you bring that towards me.
I think you need to, for me personally, I can't talk for you, but I think for me, on a way to a wedding, you get yourself in a zone. That's for me, I don't know if that works for you. Obviously, it's you in the morning, you have an energy drink or whatever. You get in that mindset, and you have to get in that zone. Does that make sense?
I always think the difference is you're like trying to pump yourself up like Rocky, like jumping up and down, like doing star jumps and stuff, whereas I'm slowly defrosting from being asleep.
Yeah. So usually I come pick you up in the morning and I'm like, come on, Emily, I've been up since like 5, and you're like, yeah, just didn't do my teeth.
I'm like, James, I've been up 20 minutes. Calm down.
And that's what's so good about it. It's amazing. Thank you, Leo, for asking Emily that question, and I appreciate that. Leo will be back next week when we talk to Victor. But yeah, anyway, Emily, I just want to say thank you ever so much for coming on today. Myself and Emily are obviously available for bookings together. Obviously, when you inquire on filmedia.co.uk, say you want a second videographer, and Emily will be there, and we can work together and we can make you the best wedding video possible. So Emily, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say before we go? Anything we haven't touched on today?
No, you've been very thorough. I think we're all good.
We're all good. So thank you ever so much for coming on, as I said, and hopefully we will be teaming up again soon. I know we've definitely got a couple of weddings booked already this year, so let's hopefully keep on going onwards and upwards.
Yeah, keep adding to the list. I'm excited to get round to them.
And who knows what's going to happen at the next wedding, because you just never know. So that has been great. So thank you, Emily. See you later.
See ya.
Well, guys, that has been episode 1, and it has been brilliant. So thank you ever so much, Emily. I really appreciate you coming on. It is always a pleasure when we get a chance to catch up, and hopefully we'll be catching up a lot more this season with some phenomenal, beautiful weddings. So yeah, thank you, Emily. And obviously thank you to Leo. First question of the week, it was brilliant. So Leo, amazing. You do a brilliant job, and I'm very pleased to have you on here asking my guests these questions. Anyway, guys, I will see you next Wednesday on the Wed-Cast, where, as I said earlier on, I'll be bringing on Victor Ling from Barker's Photo Fun, and we're going to be discussing photo booths and everything like that. So make sure you tune in next Wednesday on Apple, on YouTube, and on filmedia.co.uk. And all the best, guys. Take care. Have a great week. See you next week.